Hey, what's up, kids? I want to take just a few minutes to talk about something that we didn't talk about when we were in our fiction unit, but something that's really, really important to your understanding of literature as you go forward from eighth grade into freshman year. And you might even see some of these things on MAP, which is another reason why we're talking about them here in Cardinal Time right now. But I want to talk about character and characterization and character traits. Now, when we talk about a character in literature, you know that it is a person in a story who does things. I mean, the entire plot is written around characters exploring a conflict and seeing how that conflict is resolved. But when we talk about characterization, okay, we're looking at a way of understanding or analyzing a character. And so then we move from characterization to a character trait, which is a descriptive adjective that tells us qualities of the characters. Now, I'm sure that all of you can think of characters in books, in movies, in television shows that you've watched before that you absolutely love and you identify with. And the reason for that is the authors have written the characters in such a way that they are understandable to us. They have our same quirks, they have our same image issues, they have our same self-doubts and sometimes lacks of perspective. So authors choose to write characters that we can identify with because we know that sells books, basically. But when we talk about understanding a character as it relates to a story that we're reading, it's so important that you understand and can break down a character and how to determine what that character is. Now, when we talk about a character trait, we're talking about adjectives. So we are talking about words like adoring or adventurous or efficient or eloquent or loquacious, nervous. And many of these words you're not going to be familiar with, but you're going to get a chance to work with them over the next couple of days as we work through this whole character and characterization deal. Now, there are two types of characterization, okay? And I hope you're writing this down because you're going to need it later. The first type is direct characterization. And that's when the author flat out tells you all about the character. Like Harry Potter has a scar on his forehead from Voldemort. He lives in a broom closet. He is a short kid. He gets picked on a lot. Or Frodo Baggins is a hobbit. And if you know what a hobbit is, that tells you everything that you need to know about Frodo Baggins. Okay, so that is direct characterization. And again, that is when the author tells you everything that you need to know about that character. The second type is indirect characterization. Now, indirect characterization means that the author is not just going to flat out tell you about the character. The author is going to give you clues about who the character is through different methods. And so you're going to have to make inferences, and there's that word again, inferences. You're going to have to make inferences based on the character's thoughts, the character's actions, the character's words, or even what other characters think or say or do around this character or about this character. So maybe you have a character that you don't know much about. Okay, but you have other characters around that character who constantly tease this person for being weak or for whatever reason. That would lead me to infer that this character is shy, is introverted, is soft-spoken, is misunderstood. So there is as much, if not more, that you can tell about a character from the way other characters interact with them than you can when an author it directly tells you about a character. So again, there are two types of characterization. One is direct, where the author tells you everything that you need to know, and one is indirect, where you have to make inferences based on information that the author gives you, either from that character's thoughts, actions, or words, or by the way other characters interact or speak about the character in question. Now, there are four types of characters that we're going to discuss right now. There are as many as 7, but for right now, I just want to talk about 4 of them with you, and we'll call that good. We'll be good with that. So the first 2 types are round versus flat characters. A round character is complex. A round character is contradictory. And by contradictory, what I mean is I could say that a character who kicks every dog that they can find, but goes to the shelter and adopts cats. So on one hand, we see this character kicking dogs, but, loving and hugging on cats. How does that make sense in my head? I can't find a way to reconcile that. That would be a round character, and that is a character that changes over the course of the story. A flat character doesn't grow or change. It just stays the same. What you see in the beginning is what you see in the end. Now, when we talk about a round versus a flat character, I want you to think about it like this. A square is a two-dimensional figure, right? It's flat. So basically what you see is what you get. You see four sides, you have a flat surface here. But on this side you have a cube. You see it has sides on it, it has a bottom, it has a top, it has sides. There's some depth there. And in the same fashion with a round character, there is depth in that character because truly that character is three-dimensional, just like we are. We have depth, we are complex, we have contradictions about us. So when you think about a flat character, you have a square, but when you have a round character, you have a cube because there is depth there. There's something on the inside of that character that is worth exploring. Now, there are also two more types of characters. We've talked about round versus flat, but also we want to talk about static versus dynamic. Now, a static character, again, is the same in the beginning as in the end. Many people get static and flat, they join them together, but a flat character can be static, but a static character sometimes can't be flat. So that's why I'm breaking them off into two different ways for you. So a static character, the character is the same in the end as in the beginning. And the dynamic character undergoes significant change over the course of the story. Something happens that changes that character. Now, the key word here with both static and dynamic characters is change. And we're not talking about physical change. We're talking about something that happens internally with the character over the course of the story. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, what changes happen within the character over the course of the story? With a static character, think of it like plastic surgery. Okay? Someone can have plastic surgery and look different on the outside, but be the same person. And in the same way, a static character, something traumatic can happen to them on the outside. Okay? It might change the way that they look, or it might change something else about them, but their essential qualities, who they are at their core, that's going to stay the same, and you're going to be able to recognize that over the course of the story as it continues to develop. So that at the end of the story, you're able to ask yourself, did this character change? And the question becomes, no, not really. A good example of that would be Asher in The Giver. Asher was a static character because in the beginning of the book, we see that Asher having trouble with mispronouncing words. In the middle of the book, we see Asher still having the same issue. In the beginning of the book, we see Asher having a rash kind of spontaneous nature. In the end of the book, we see Asher still having the same rash, spontaneous nature. So he's static. He stays the same. There's no surprises about him. There's no surprise about how he's going to react. Like when Jonas comes and he's telling him, hey, you shouldn't play this game because this game reminds me of something called war. And Asher gets mad at Jonas because Jonas is trying to ruin his fun, or at least Asher thinks that he is. That's a typical Asher response because that's who he is in the beginning of the book, and that's who he is now. So he's static. But when we think about a dynamic character, we think about a character that undergoes some type of trauma that changes who they are on a basic, essential, foundational level. So again, let's go back to The Giver. Jonas. In the beginning, Jonas is very, very naive about the way that the world works because he has nothing that would tell him or inform him any differently. But as soon as he begins to get the memories, things begin changing for him. until ultimately when he sees what happened with Gabriel, what release actually is. That is that traumatic moment that takes him from the naive boy that we see in the beginning, who can't decide if he's frightened or apprehensive, to the boy who grabs Gabriel and jets out of the community, determined to give the memories back to the community so that they can truly see what life is about. So, we've talked today about character, a person in the story. We've talked about characterization, which is a way to understand a character. And understanding a character is very, very important to understanding what the novel is about. Okay? Please don't underestimate the importance of understanding a character and being able to analyze a character. A character trait are adjectives, descriptive adjectives, that tell us the qualities of the character. And again, you're going to get to work some with these over the next couple of days. There are two types of characterization, direct and indirect. There are four types of characters: round, flat, static, and dynamic. The key word is the change internal, or is it not? Is the character the same in the end of the novel as he or she is in the beginning of the novel? Those are questions that you have to ask yourselves. And you will be working with these in assignments today, tomorrow, and probably on Wednesday as well. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you have questions, again, feel free to ask me. Peace.